It's one thing to hold a vision internally, and especially if you have a creative mind, like you see images, you see realities that don't yet exist. So it's one thing to hold that in your mind, and it's a whole nother thing to then communicate that and build that external reality. It's like there's a million ways to build your company. But if you have an entrepreneurial mind, one of the best things that you can do is to leverage that vision and build a body of work, which then that becomes like the output. You think of fashion designers, like they have collections, and each collection, like this is all what builds a body of work. Each collection tells a story that then goes and communicates that vision externally. So design is what they do, and this is what we used to do with my label, is like you're telling a story, you're unfolding a story. Designers, they weave stories and they use what they're using. They're not using like a product or things like that. They're using textures and materials and fabrics and technology. Like that's what they're using as their way of building out what they see. And this is where like design can be so powerful. It's like it's not just about what you're wearing, it's what's the story behind what you're wearing. How do you feel as you wear that piece of clothing? Authors, they do this via books, and each book has a very unique story, and that evokes emotion, and that takes the reader on this journey that's been designed and created. And book by book, the body of work builds, but it starts with one story, it starts with one line, it starts with word building on compounding. Engineers do this with structures. Artists do this by creating in whatever way they want to create. Chefs do this by food and creating different menus and different pieces like that becomes their body of work, is like the actual food that they create, and the textures and the ingredients that they pair and the taste that evoke. Like there's so much in this. Entrepreneurs, they do it via ideas. It's like idea by idea, that's the body of work. And so your body of work will be the summation of the vision that you brought to life. And the greatest piece to this, the greatest part of this is there are no rules. There are no rules on how to do this. It's your ideas, it's your dreams, it's your vision. Like you are the creator, you're the forger, you're the one. And so you have to decide that what's inside of you, it matters, and bring this to life like the world is waiting, even when potentially no one even knows who you are yet. You have to see yourself before the world sees you. Product by product, book by book, creation by creation, meal by meal, photo by photo, idea by idea, you bring the vision to life. And I think when I think about why so many people don't let what's inside of them out, there's one of my favorite quotes by Wayne Dyer, and he's like, "Don't die with the music still inside of you." And I have never forgotten that quote, because I'm like, there's so much inside of people, and people don't let it out because they're like, oh, but no one sounds like me, or the music inside of me is so different to what everyone else has. It's like, that's the point. And I think one of the biggest reasons why so many ideas, they stay inside and so many dreams never ignite is people have these fears of like, well, maybe it won't be good. And it's like, and so what? You evolve, you adapt. Maybe it's not good at the beginning, but you keep going, you iterate, you move, you evolve the product, you evolve their service, you pivot, like I've done so many things that haven't worked before. No one knows about them. It doesn't matter. What mattered was I kept going, and I created things, and I showed up, and I kept moving, and I kept moving, and I kept building and kept creating, and I kept doing the things until one day it worked. And then there were other times, even after it worked, where it didn't work and it didn't work, and then it worked, and then it worked, and then it worked, and people just see what worked. And so you cannot let that fear of like maybe it won't be good, because maybe it won't be. But what are you gonna do? Are you gonna stop? Or are you gonna keep going because there's something inside of you? You know, people think, well, maybe no one will care. It's like, it doesn't, okay, maybe they won't care at the beginning, but do you care? And can you care about it uncircumstantially to whether other people care about it? And can you bring awareness to this? And can you get it out into the world? And can you be creative with how you market it, how you tell the story about it? If I just give you, if I try to sell you uh, a clip, it's like, of course no one cares. It's just a clip, but what's the story of the clip? Like maybe there's a story behind it. Like it doesn't. What else do I have here? I've got a million things here. This hair tie, this gold, like it's got little sparkles on it. There's a quote actually in this movie called Air. I'm obsessed with this movie, by the way. Like if you can watch this movie, it's incredible. It's on Amazon Prime. And I won't go into the movie, but there's a line, and it's like, a shoe is just a shoe until someone steps in it. It is just a shoe until there's a story, and it's around them building the shoe for Michael Jordan. So it's like, no one cares when it's just the hair tie, but what about this hair tie? Like, what's the story that you build around it? It's like a bag. Like, what does the Gucci sign mean? Well, like, if that was just a random R, no one would care, but they care because it's Gucci, because there's a story, because there's a brand behind it. At the beginning, no one cares. And I think there's a level of humbleness that every artist and entrepreneur and creator needs to have. Like, I still think I'm a nobody. And I don't mean that from I don't believe in myself, but I'm like, a lot of people don't know who I am. And why should they? Like, there's no expectation that people should just get it. It's like, I've got to care about this so much. And it's while I don't care about coming on a brand new platform or doing something new, because I'm like, I've got something inside of me that I want to share with the world. And I can't wait for people to tell me that my story matters before I move. Maybe in your mind you're like, but I'm not like everyone else. It's like, that's the entire point. And what I see a lot of the time is people never build their body of work because they're so entangled by everyone else's, or they're trying to consume everyone else's. They're trying to become the greatest artist through other people's work, or they're trying to become the best author through other people's work. And so they never find their style. Or they're too busy comparing because they're like, oh, but this person writes like this, I better write like this. Or this person's built their business in this structure, I better build like that. And they never even get to discover their truth because they're so entangled by everyone else's work, right? It's why so much goes unseen. And it's why people feel like an imposter, because they're leveraging other people's worlds instead of building their own. And so they'll go all in, but then it doesn't work because it's like, that was never your path. Or they listen to people that are like, build your brand this way, these the exact things you need to do, and this is how you're meant to structure your program, and this is how you're meant to build the product. And then they only go down one path, and then they make that mean because the path is a dead end, because they were never meant to build like that. And then all of a sudden they're making that mean that they're not good enough. It's like, no, you just walked down one path, but you forgot that there were 19,000 million trillion billion other paths for you to walk down. This is so big, because what I know, that no matter what your skill set is, there's a body of work that lives within you. It's the work of your life. And it doesn't always need to be logical. Like, I think about my body of work, and it was a fashion label. And even though I don't sell the clothes at the moment, that's still part of I've got the dresses in my wardrobe. Like, I look at that, and that's part of what I built. Like, I created that. My first book, Ignite Your Spark, like, that's part of my body of work. And then I have incredible programs, and I have incredible experiences, and my one-on-one mentorship, like, that's all part of my body of work. I'm writing my second book at the moment. Like, that's all part of it. It's the work of my life. It's where all my ideas and my thoughts and my creations it goes into. It's like, there's gonna be a million reasons why you can't do this. But you just need to find one reason why you can, and then build on that. It's one product at a time. You don't sit there and try and figure out your body of work. That's something that you don't do. You start with one thing, and you build, and you evolve, and you let it expand. I started with one book. I didn't have the evidence that it was going to work. I didn't know, but I believed. I found one reason why my story mattered. There were a million reasons why my story didn't matter, but I found the one reason why it did. Why my voice mattered. Why what I had to say mattered. And I moved and I moved and I moved, and that changed my life in a million ways. You've just got to find one reason why it matters, amongst all of the reasons why it potentially doesn't. And so whatever it is that you want to create or build in your lifetime, like, why don't you go find out who you are on the other side of that? Life is so precious, and what lives within you is so precious, and it's magic. You've got to let the world see it if that's what's inside of your heart. If you want to do this, then do it. You know, like, go create the fashion label. Go tell the story. Go write down all of the recipes and create the cookbook, or whatever it is you want to be seen by the world. See yourself. Because what lives within you, it matters so much. But at the beginning, you've got to decide that it matters. And you keep going and you keep building, and day by day, moment by moment, edge by edge, your body of work, it unfolds. And you're going to look back. There's going to be a time where you look back in your life and you're like, I did it. I built everything for me, for the world, for the legacy of my life. And I just think we get so caught up in how to do it, but it's like, you already know how to do it. And yes, there are going to be things that you learn. Yes, there are going to be days where you're like, I really want to go and purchase this program and learn someone else's way. It's why I love the Ignited experience so much, because not only is it so much information about my process and how I've done things and how I build brands and how I launch and how I sell and how I dream and how I move and how I coach and how I mentor and how I handle money and my views on money and how I ignite my ideas. Like, there's a million trainings that you can go immerse yourself in. But what I love so much about that is then every 2 weeks we have these integration calls, these mentorship calls, where we have a conversation and we can ideate together and dream together. Like, there's so much inside of that experience. But at the end of the day, like, you have to decide that the story of your life matters. And then every day you go build the story. You go uncover the story. You go tell the story. Not because you're trying to get this result, because it matters to you. And then day by day, moment by moment, you go bring it to life. And one day you're going to look back and see everything. And it's like, not everything might have worked, but what it would have done, would have led you to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And this is how it builds. And already in your life, I'm sure you can look back and you can see how all of these dots led you to this moment right here watching this video. And so the next question is now, like, what are you going to go do with this? What are you going to build? What are you going to create? Just remember, like, this moment right now, this is it. This is the only known part of everything. And so how can you move today? What can you build? What can you create? What's the vision of your life, and can you go build that? One step at a time, one move at a time, one product at a time, one photo at a time, one creation at a time. Like, it starts with one move. The level of intentionality this takes is huge. So you cannot get distracted in everyone else's vision and everyone else's body of work. Like, let people build what they're building. Let people have their own mindset, their own opinion. Like, you've got to decide amongst all of the reasons why it can't work, you've got to find one reason why it can, and the rest will be history.